Welcome back. Listen, I I had thought about doing this earlier today. I wasn't even gonna do another live because y'all know I did two other lives focused on contract law. But y'all know we've been talking about criminal law for a little bit on this channel, right? Because I've been studying both criminal law and contract law. And one of these new developments came in, and I said, no, this caught my attention. We gotta talk about this tonight. Child, we gotta talk about this tonight. Okay. So as you guys know, we've been talking about the Nolan case, which has been going on, is ongoing and ongoing with investigation. We don't have any definitive answers. We can't necessarily say guilty, not guilty. We don't know anything definitively, right? The evidence doesn't state that quite yet. However, we've had a lot of information that lets us know that we really see that the prosecution should be moving forward, and we should see what occurs through the legal process, right? So there was an audio engineer, Janetta. Give y'all her image, because listen, we don't play, we get to them receipts. So we had Miss Janetta Brantley, right? She helped break this case wide open. Okay, so what she did was she took some audio content and she put it through some engineering software, which I'm gonna allow her to explain to you. And what she was able to uncover was that once she extracted some of the content, you can hear some things in the background, which gives us what? Pause. Enough pause to say that the prosecution needs to go ahead and move forward. Now, what do they move forward with? What charges they might try to press forward towards? Different conversation. But the fact that something needs to happen, fair, right? When we look at things from a criminal law perspective, we understand what beyond a reasonable doubt. So they need to have certain information in place, right? We've talked about that to some extent, but just to kind of bring attention to this individual right here, Janetta Brantley, because what did I come to find out? This person who decides to volunteer their subject matter expertise, someone who is kind enough to say, you know what, I see something going on in the world, going on in the community. I'm going to try to do my part to see how I can help, use my skill sets to help bring answers, because we want what? Justice. We want justice. And what happens to this young lady? What happens? She gets death threats because she chose to listen to audio, use her subject matter expertise so that people can hear the audio in a more clear and distinct way. She's getting death threats for a case that's supposed to be what? They said there was no harm, no foul play. You know, it was the term that they use, right? This is an accidental death, right? So if that is the case, and someone is just saying, hey, I just went ahead and pulled the audio, put the audio through certain metrics that trained personnel generally do, that I've been reading comments that said it sounds pretty standard for other people who are audio engineers to do. Why would people become so inflamed that they would threaten this lady? So that it gives me so many questions. So I'm gonna let y'all listen to this content, but I just wanted to bring that to your attention that this is a development that is just now happening. So how did I come across this information? Because y'all know I'm going to give you them receipts. I was following social media, trying to stay abreast of all the things that are going on, and I saw that Nancy Grace. Now I know we talked about how she be getting into these receipts too. What? She bank on it, right? She is the one a lot of us grew up kind of watching, kind of hold people accountable. And y'all know one thing: you don't play about people's children, okay? So Janetta Brantley's content was featured on Nancy Grace's show, right? Maybe her team just got it and she just kind of said, hey, this is some audio that we've come across, right? TMZ did something similar. When I initially seen the information on those platforms, which is maybe after or around the time that I had it on mine, she was not referenced. Yesterday, when she, in fact, put her on there, like I said, she featured her. She was talking about some concerns that she had, one with her getting death threats, but then initially she started off talking about trying to bring more attention to the credibility, what about her expertise and her background. Now, we can't just say just because it's Nancy Grace and we rock with her real heavy that automatically makes someone more credible. Because once again, that's not the focus of what we're doing today. But, you know, as we always look here, we always ask the question of, where is it? We always ask about the reliability of the data. When we get information, we are always asking, well, how reliable is this data? Right? Is it official document? Is it court filings, recordings? Right? Listen, big on recordings. Is it official statement? Is it right? Is it written? Or goes? I'm looking at it backwards so y'all can see it properly. So let me see which one I put in. Okay, recorded interviews. Is it this, right? Did it come from social media? Is it independent analyst, right? Is it verified, right? Where is it falling on this list? Where is it falling? Turn it this way. Can y'all see that a little bit better? Where, right? How reliable are these resources? So now, as I'm watching that clip, I'm like, okay, Nancy Grace is putting a little bit of extra support to show like, hey, this person has a very credible background. And outside of that, she's also asking the question or bringing to our attention that now someone who is an everyday person, like likely me and you, I don't know who all comes across this channel, she lent her expertise and now she's being subject to harassment. Right? So I want to kind of come back to that because she was just going to offer her support. Now she's being a focal point for harassment. So I want us to go ahead, listen to this clip. It's very quick. I told you I'm not going to be here too long. I wasn't planning on going live again today because I already did a couple of, but I want y'all to hear this. I really want y'all to hear this because that's something that gave me pause. So I want y'all to hear it so we can get into these receipts. Because we've already talked about we talked about the case. We've already talked about the case in some length. It's already on the channel. If y'all want, I can do a quick dive in after we listen to the audio, if that is the pleasure of the body that is on right now, right? But we want to go listen to this audio because what? You're saying just by trying to ask questions, trying to help bring justice for this family who is saying they need help, they need support, they want information, they want to know what happened to their child, right? That now this person being subjected to harassment. Let y'all hear from the source. Because now this audio engineer that people said was just sitting out on social media as an everyday person has now been brought on Nancy Grace and has now been a part of a formal interview. So now, as far as reliability, how are we looking at that source now? Okay? How might a criminal defense attorney start to look at that resource now? How might a prosecutor look at that resource now? Okay? And if you're willing, put that in the chat. Because that's the questions we've been asking, right? How would criminal defense look at it? How would prosecution look at it? We're talking about criminal law. I'm going to go ahead and give you this clip.
Ms. Brantley is the audio engineer who enhanced a 911 call, the CETO call, in the Nolan Wells case. So everybody claiming some ding-dong on YouTube did it or somebody on Insta or TikTok did it, no. She did it. I've spoken to her. I've read her statement. I want you to judge her credibility. Credibility is normally the sole province of a jury, and tonight you serve in that function. Ms. Brantley, I'm sure that you're getting all sorts of abuse, threats, and so forth. It's a cacophony that seemingly won't cease. That said, thank you for being with us tonight. Explain to me where you got the audio, how you got the audio, and what, if anything, you did to enhance the audio.
First and foremost, I basically downloaded it off of YouTube from WLOX News's YouTube site. And when I downloaded it, I ripped it off of YouTube. That's the terminology that we use when we take something off of YouTube. But when I ripped it off of YouTube
Pause.
and I pulled it in.
Pause, please. Objection. Ms. Brantley, isn't it true that the audio you got was taken directly by XLO from MDMR, correct? The Mississippi Department of Marine Resources. Isn't that true?
Yes.
Okay, please continue, Ms. Brantley.
So when I downloaded it from YouTube, I pulled it into my DAW, which is Logic Pro X. That's my DAW of choice. And when I first listened to it, I realized that it was like a dual mono recording, which most, most phone services or operators utilize when they're recording conversations. And so it was already split between the caller, the dispatch, and the callers in the background. And so that's what made it easy for me to isolate it without having to do much to it. So that isolation, when I separated the left channel from the right channel, that just made me be able to really focus on everything that was on the call end. And what I was hearing was I honestly could not believe what I was hearing.
Well, you heard it. Okay. In a couple seconds, I'll actually go ahead and show you the original clip that was circulating around online. But I guess this woman, out the kindness of her heart, shared her subject matter expertise. And how is that fair that as she's trying to share her subject matter expertise to help families, right, bring attention to certain things, right? Because at this point, the family's asking for questions, any kind of information, anything that could help. How is that fair that she's being subjected to harassment? Now, we didn't get the particulars, but we did hear death threat, right? And it just made me curious, right? So I have another question in the chat. Like, what should private citizens expect protection after they go viral for something, right? Especially because she's trying to help with this case. She said it was something that made her uncomfortable, gave her pause when she heard it. And she said, I have to share this with people so that somebody can look into this, somebody can investigate. Right? That gives me pause. That's another thing that, like, it becomes another question that I kind of have. I want you guys to sound off in the chat while I pull up the original one that I found. So, where is the original clip? Let's go to the other folder. Okay, so this is her original clip. I'm going to show you guys that. And then we are going to move into these questions. So let's see. I see something. So someone's asking, how would you know about online harassment? If someone's saying that they're being harassed, and a second party is also saying that they're being harassed, that's the information for which we're basing it off of. There's another comment by the same user. That's a conflicting statement inside of the same statement. If you want to rewrite that so I can respond, I'll give you a moment and I'll play this 4-minute video, which was the original clip that actually went viral. I will play that for you right now.
Okay, so before I play this, I want to quickly explain what I did, what you're looking at on the screen, and why I chose to approach this audio the way that I did. As a professional audio engineer with experience in dialogue editing, dialogue cleanup, sound design, and post-production, I decided to work on that CTO call using traditional audio processing techniques rather than relying on any AI voice separation or AI enhancement. My goal was pretty much to preserve as much of the original recording as possible while making the quieter dialogue and background audio easier to hear. So I basically use techniques such as subtractive EQ, compression, gain adjustments, noise reduction, frequency isolation, and other traditional processing methods. So what I did was I separated Vicky, the CTO dispatcher, from Warren and the audio originating from the boat so that I can concentrate more closely on what was happening behind and around Warren, pretty much on the boat. And I specifically chose not to rely on AI because aggressive AI enhancements and voice isolation tools can sometimes introduce artifacts and distort the speech or create ambiguity around the sounds that were originally present. And for something this serious, I wanted my processing to remain as conservative as possible. You'll also notice time code and dialogue written on the side of the screen and pop up during each segment. That dialogue represents what I personally hear as an audio engineer while processing and repeatedly reviewing these sections. I'm pretty much providing it as a listening reference, not as a declaration that my interpretation is the only possible interpretation. And that's important. I want you to listen for yourself, use headphones if you have them, listen closely, and decide with your own ears what you believe is being said. You can also return to the original unprocessed recording and compare directly with what you're hearing here. You'll also notice that my time code may not match the regular timestamp on the original uploaded video. And that's because I'm working inside a professional post-production timeline, a digital audio workstation, basically using simply time code, which in film, that's displayed in hours, minutes, seconds, and frames. Film and TV timelines are completely different from timestamps that you see when you're watching regular videos or when you're watching a movie and you hit pause. So basically the time code on the screen is there to identify the precise location within my working session, not to represent the elapsed timestamp displayed by the original video player. And I hope that makes sense. For this first video, I'm sharing only approximately 37 seconds of the call. I originally intended to continue much further, but once I separated the dispatcher from the boat and started concentrating exclusively on the background dialogue, what I believed I was hearing became extremely difficult for me to process emotionally, and I needed to take a mental break. But I wanted to release this portion because some of the details that stood out most to me occur very early in the call, like right at the top of the call. And so I'm gonna let the audio play. Read my transcription if you want to reference, but don't allow it to determine what you hear. I want you to listen first, listen again, compare it with the original recording, and then judge it with your own ears. I hope this breakdown helps. And my
Hey, we're at the west tip of Horn, and our village pump stopped working. We're sinking. Can y'all please come? We have a membership. No, hey, oh, shut the fuck up!
Okay. So y'all have heard her interview, and you've heard the original viral clip that went around. I want to once again make sure that we are highlighting this brave young lady who, definitely shared her subject matter expertise with us so that we could be able to hear some of that additional sound or audio that was in the background. It was a couple things that are really interesting. I just feel it was interesting. to learn that this person has been now receiving online harassment, physically, or I shouldn't say physically, verbally being harassed with death threats, all because she just went ahead and tried to share her skill set to help bring justice, to bring attention to something that she heard that brought her pause and gave her concern. After hearing the original interview that was done with Nancy Grace, hearing the original clip that was circulating online that they were talking about, what evidence would help you evaluate like this situation or this piece of the puzzle better? Is there anything in particular, right? I'm always processing. What would help us be able to process it better, understand it better? Is there certain information, certain kinds of things, maybe a more lengthy interview? Like, what is it that you feel like would make processing this information better? I feel like there's anything specifically missing from that. Granted, right? This is just a small piece. This is one focal point, right? I said I wasn't going to do a whole bunch today. We've already been kind of piecing through a lot of the pieces when it comes to this story. There's so many pieces to this story. What? Because it's an ongoing active investigation. They have not actually pressed charges, right? There's the prosecution has decided to move forward. They're still in the collection stage. My heart goes out to the family. We know that they are dealing with a lot. We know that they just got information about the second autopsy information, right? Very new situation. I always say be very kind in the comments with regards to talking about the case, because you never know, people who are directly connected to that case and that family could be in the comments. We never know who drops in, pops in, says hello, hi, how do you do type of situations. If there are ever questions or concerns about content on here, I'm always willing to answer those questions as best as I can. I do not ever claim to be an expert on obviously an open case and investigation, right? But what I am doing is I am a law student studying at the University of London. I am in the process of preparing for my exams, and I love to share with you guys the things that I'm learning and how I'm learning them. I love to share with you guys my process. So any tools that I have that I think can be helpful to anyone else or the everyday person, I'm always trying to share. I believe that sharing is caring. I believe it's important that we would bring unity to the community. So if I can share it with you and it can help you in your life and your family and your situation, I'm always happy to do just that. So today was just going to be it's like a stop and go. This is like a snack situation. This is not a deep dive like we normally do. I just wanted us to kind of look in at that because I thought that was so interesting for a case where they initially wanted people to believe that there was no foul play, that this is an accidental drowning, that all those things occurred. It's very interesting that when someone decides to look into audio and just say, hey, what am I hearing? Let me hear it more clearly, distinctly. Let me just listen in. And hey, I heard something. Let me send this out so other people can hear it. That will result in death threats. You know, like that was... It's very interesting, right? It was so interesting that it made me pause and say, let me ask some more questions. So I have a question, a credibility question. Does a larger platform change how people perceive somebody's credibility? Because now she's been on Nancy Grace. Does that change the way that you look at the credibility of the person? My question is, should it? You know, these are questions I have. You know, I'm always asking questions. I have some other questions I want to leave us with. Public interviews are different from evidence presented in court. And like public discussion is different from like legal proof. So like kind of balancing that piece out, like when we're talking about the reliability of it, also keeping that piece in mind. We don't know if the courts will consider this at all, but it's also not in public domain, so it seems like it's fair game. I'm always curious, how might the criminal defense team potentially look at it? Like, how would a criminal defense attorney look at this information? Because it is sitting out there, right? How might the prosecution look at this information? Y'all know I have a third lens, which is like, how might the family, the community look at that information? Because those are three separate views and perspectives on the same exact evidence, same exact content, same exact information. So I'm always curious. So if y'all got some thoughts, drop them in the chat. Drop it in the chat. Now y'all know the thing that really gave me pause, and I'm say one more time, if somebody receives threats because they contributed to a public discussion, because this is very much a public discussion, the community feels impacted, right? Nancy Grace felt impacted. Colin Kaepernick felt impacted to act, to have a comment, to be a part of the discussion. Who else do we have on? We had Judge Mathis. Judge Mathis was on here. Judge Mathis was on here. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett was also interviewed. There are lots of people that were interviewed about this case. Those are just some of the ones I pulled, and we've actually been able to see what they said on this platform. If someone raises concern, better yet, someone receives threats because they contribute to a public discussion, that raises a separate issue from like the underlying investigation, because from my perspective, that is criminal, right? You can't threaten to take someone's life, especially if they're taking any type of actions that look like they're gesturing towards doing that itself, right? So that is concerning within itself. Obviously, we don't know who's involved with regards to that piece, and that's not something where we're looking in at present moment, right? Let's they say and give us more details as to make us more interested in those pieces. It seemed like just the mention of it was enough, right? I guess it brings a question to me about the level of disagreement and discord, right? Just because you're not in agreement doesn't inherently mean, or that you have different viewpoints doesn't necessarily mean that someone should have a right to try to violate you in any kind of way. So I feel like disagreeing with someone is just so different from actually threatening them. So it's so many levels and degrees to that type of situation. So it's something that gives me pause and something that makes me wonder, especially in today's age, the way that social media is. That's something to look at, right? This everyday person just tried to help out, and that was the aftermath, right? You would think it'd be like, hey, thank you so much. But which also could be happening, right? We don't know that that's not happening, but what was shared with us that is happening is this person's receiving death threats, which is so unfortunate because they did so much to help people better understand one element of this case, which was that audio piece, right? So, I also want to say, you kind of looked at that interview in comparison to like how that viral clip was and how her presentation looked. She was a very professional lady. Like how her demeanor was versus like when she did the interview, she kind of looked tired to me. Like it just seemed like maybe the weight of the whole situation might be weighing on her. This is my opinion. Now that piece is my opinion, and that really is just my impression. Isn't evidence of anything, so please don't say that on this channel she said but you all know me on this channel. I always think about the impact. I'm always thinking about the human experience. I'm always thinking about that harm absorption. And I just think that's so incredibly unfortunate that someone who is trying to help make the world a better place, someone who's trying to help bring about justice, someone just trying to do the right thing, do the good thing, is receiving that kind of treatment. And unfortunately being forcibly placed into like public scrutiny, right? Because now she's kind of becoming a part of the high profile case because of the way that it's being set up, right? So that's very interesting. It's just something that made me go, right? I told you I wasn't gonna keep y'all long. So let me see, look through my notes. Let me see. Let's see what else I want to say to y'all. Look through my notes. So, okay, so I'm gonna ask y'all just a couple more questions. So, what do you think has the biggest influence on credibility today? Professional expertise, public platform, right? Because some people just be acting like, they just credible just because they got X amount of followers. So it makes you wonder, right? Is it because someone has the professional expertise and they've studied and they have certain credentials? Is it some size of their platform? Firsthand information? Or is it something else? We talked about reliability of information based off the Legally Everywhere framework, right? And also based off typically how they view evidence, right? But, what do you think when you look at stuff and you listen to stories, right? Because a lot of us be getting stuff from social media. That's usually our biggest form of or entry point to the consumption of information. So what do you think is the biggest influence on credibility today? Professional expertise? Platform? Firsthand information? Or something else? And then my next thought was that I want to bring this to a close in like a positive way. I am so appreciative that she was courageous and considered and kind enough to share that audio with us. And I always just hope that of all the things that she's experienced as a byproduct of sharing her subject matter expertise with everyone, I hope that she's getting the appreciation and the and truly getting her flowers that she deserves, because she did not have to share that with anyone, but we're all able to learn and gain more understanding just by trying to understand what she presented, right? Some of us are digging and diving deeper into, okay, what is an audio engineer's background? Like what is this type of software? What is she exactly explaining when she's saying this part and that part? And allowing us to diversify our understanding of audio, and what capabilities exist, with regards to listening to content. So I appreciate the attention that she brought to her industry. I appreciate the attention she brought to this case. And I'm going to kind of bring us to a close and say, as always, our goal isn't to like rush to conclusions. It's not to say who's guilty, who's not guilty, because that's not where we are. Like, once again, this is in the thick of an investigation. They are collecting information. We don't know who's guilty, who's not guilty, right? But we trying to find out, and that's the whole point. We're trying to get information so that we can find out, so this family can get some justice for Nolan. That is somebody's baby who is gone. The family is well within their rights to want answers, and the community is well within their rights to say, hey, if however we can help to bring justice, positive, correct, appropriate, but to bring justice, to bring answers, to open inquiry, is proper. So I want to leave us on a note. It's the goal of this channel was to bring forth a space where we can honestly ask real, genuine questions. Sometimes even better questions than some spaces really allow us to do. To keep looking for reliable information. To let the evidence guide us in our thinking. And not just allow everything to be based on our emotions, but to honestly think like, what's reliable, right? What factual information can we find? Because based off of, where is the one I want to pull for y'all? Hopefully y'all can see it. Right? When we look at the offenses and the defenses, right? Because as we talked previously in previous dive-ins with regards to this, they haven't outlined what kind of charge they're going to give. Let me pull it this way so y'all can see. They haven't really outlined what kind of charge they're actually potentially, prosecution isn't at that point, right? So we wouldn't know what kind of defenses could potentially reduce or remove criminal liability in the assumption that someone was charged. So once again, what? We just need more information. It's a very uncomfortable situation when we're thinking like, okay, this young man lost his life, and we definitely need answers right now. And but as far as the actual charges, prosecution hasn't gotten to that part of the process yet. So what do? We just keep looking to get answers the best that we can, to get better yet information. Let's say information. Sometimes asking questions can put us in a place where we are informed, but there isn't necessarily like closure or clarity. And sometimes that's just where we're at in that moment. And I feel like that's where we kind of are right now. We have more information as a byproduct of her sharing her subject matter expertise. But once again, there is not a clarity in exactly where this will lead to. We just know that we're in a process of investigation and them collecting information. And we really hope that the prosecution does, when they have the appropriate information that they need to move forward, that they in fact move forward, because that family does deserve justice for what happened to that young man, based off all the information that we have seen in the public, and will be staying tuned on if any other developments come out. But that is what I found. That's why I decided I wanted to go ahead and share with you all. I'm going to go ahead and look at the comments, because I do see there's a little bit more engagement. Once again, I have always said I love the engagement on this channel, but I also want to note that if someone's going to try to sensationalize certain things that are happening with that case, I will remove your comments, because I ask that people be very kind in the comment section when it comes to this case. We don't know who's connected to that family, and if by any chance, this is something that's worldwide, right? YouTube. So this could be something that comes across people's families. And I would really hate for them to read something like what was placed in the comment section. So I will be removing that. So by the time some people are seeing this, they may not see that comment. But we will not do that on my channel. I don't permit that. I don't consent to that. And I will not subject people's families, friends, and loved ones to be subjected to that. It's inappropriate, and it will be removed, and you will also be removed from this page. But I just want to say that we do want to handle this in the most trauma-informed way that we can, but we also want to have the discussions. We also want to make sure that we can learn and use those criminal law skills, right? Use certain legal thinking and rationales so that we can process the information using the framework that I have on this channel, using the tools that I have in my class. I want to make sure that I'm sharing that and allowing other people to use those tools to process, because once again, as I've always said, as we've been following this case, lawyers look at the information different than the everyday person. So we're not looking at the material the way that lawyers will look at them. We're not looking at them the way that a criminal defense attorney will look at them, or a prosecutor will look at them. And I wanted to share some of the resources that I've been getting in my class so that we can start to frame our minds to look and see what is it that they see. And that allows us to ask more informed questions. So to everyone, I want to thank you all for your engagement on my channel, on this live. This has been very lively. If I don't answer your questions while we're actively on the live, know that I will follow back and I will respond later. As far as any actionable things right now, it appears that I have addressed those. But as always, I want people to be kind to themselves. It's a lot to sometimes digest and process a lot of this information that we get on social media. Sometimes we don't even know that we're going to be getting certain kinds of alerts, certain kinds of information. So if you ever feel like it's too much or it's overwhelming, practice self-care and do what you need to do to make sure that you are okay when you are receiving the information. Okay? This is Adrian from What Legally Everywhere, with Child We Legally Everywhere, looking into everything. I want y'all to mind your self-care. I want you to be open to being engaged in learning and looking at things. I'm always trying to reimagine the way I'm introduced to certain information. I use the frameworks, I use the school and class material to look at information a little bit differently than how I might naturally look at it, so that I can apply it in a way that lines up with where I'm trying to go in life, which would be more so on the legal track, right? But also just for my own knowledge, right? Just to know the law, just to know certain things, because some of it is civic engagement. Some of it is honestly your obligation to know. Ignorance of law is never a plea. So you do want to be knowledgeable to a degree as well. I think also in the way that we consume information, it's just wise to know, how does the law look at it? How would a lawyer look at it? How would a criminal defense attorney look at it? How would a prosecutor look at it? So that is how I am setting up these particular lives. When I say learn with me, from a case study perspective, we take a specific case and we kind of just try to follow it through the process, whatever that process may be, right? And we do that. So I've been doing my best to be as trauma informed when we talk about Nolan's case, because once again, we have a grieving family that is out there who has lost their child. This is very public. People who maybe could do everyday things are not able to do the everyday thing in the way that they had been able to, all while they are grieving. They're in the middle of a grieving process, yet they have to be in front of cameras. They have to talk to people. They have to advocate. They have to fight. And that's a lot of weight to carry. I'm always interested in that human experience and that harm absorption. So I really do. My heart really does go to that family, the friends of Nolan, his community, his classmates, all of them, because that's a lot. That is a lot to see your loved one being discussed, and then for some people to say things that I believe are very inflammatory. I feel for them, because if smaller creators are getting it, I could only imagine what that family deals with. I could only imagine. The same is true for the defense attorney that, or I just point just the attorney, but like the defense attorney, when they're handling cases, the prosecution team, when they're handling cases, you just never know. And it's just so unfortunate, because people are honestly trying to do their portion with regards to bringing about justice. So it's so unfortunate. My heart goes out to that family. It really does. I hope that at some point at the end of this particular road, I hope that there's justice there. I hope that Lady Liberty is not blind when it comes to this situation. I really do. There's just so much that could be said, but I won't be saying it tonight. I'm going to look in these comments. I see people are saying hello and hi and justice for him, right? Justice for him. If you like this content, like, comment, subscribe. But more importantly, I really enjoy the engagement. Comment, talk to me. Talk to me as I navigate the material I learned in school. I like to apply it real time, and I bring it back to y'all. And I love to talk to y'all because you help me process my thoughts. I like to think about my thought process, not just the material I'm introduced to. So definitely comment and engage with me. Let me know you're here. Let me know you're in the chat. I always enjoy that. And I give you shouts outs when you're here. Is there any questions before I sign off? Are there any questions? Are there any comments you want me to kind of go back and look at anything in particular? I know some people just kind of got on. Okay. Well, if there is nothing else, I just really want to say thank you for hopping onto my live. Thank you for being part of my community. Thank you for being a part of this journey of kind of going through the class material, of applying it to real life situations where we really kind of get to see it and feel it, right? Because a lot of times we look at these cases and we're looking at it long after they've already happened. But there's so much realness and rawness that comes when these cases are active and we are in the investigation stage, right? So it's a lot of emotions out there. There's lots of thoughts, lots of feelings, there's lots of evidence, there's lots of information. And we haven't gotten to the point of pulling the primary sources, but don't you worry. In upcoming lives, I will be pulling the primary sources. So a lot of places that I've been pulling information from, they were showing primary sources. As far as reliability, we talked about that on here. We want to get to primary source. So I will pull those and extract that, and we'll look at it here on the channel because y'all know how we always get into them receipts. But be kind to people in the comments, because once again, you never know if people's family members are able to like access, if they're coming past it, it can scroll past their page and they just trying to maybe de-stress and calm down, and here it is, social media is throwing stuff in their face. So be kind, you know, just be good humans, right? At the end of the day, we just want to be really good humans when we can, right? And as far as just your everyday consumption, if you don't feel like you're directly impacted, still practice self-care, because vicarious trauma can happen as well, just sometimes from overly hearing certain kinds of information, certain kinds of details. So put up protective factors if you need to as you are consuming some of this information. Some of it can be pretty intense. I do my best not to put that specific content on the channel. I might reference and tell you where to go get it if you need it, for the sake of just understanding the case. But I try not to put that on this channel. I do my best to be trauma informed, so you can trust me to try to hold that space. With that being said, that is pretty much what I had for tonight. I told y'all I try not to keep y'all long. Originally, I was like, hey, I'm almost done for 15 minutes. Now here we are, okay? So, once again, this is Adrian with Legally Everywhere. Child, we legally everywhere. We looking into everything. I hope you enjoyed this live. I hope you enjoyed the channel. I hope you enjoyed the content. I hope to see you I hope to see you in the next video. Today, we was getting into the receipts. I did 3 lives. This is it for tonight, okay? I'll see you in the next video.